A year-long study of workers in their 50s and 60s found that 92% met the clinical threshold for a sleep disorder at least once, and the main culprit might surprise you. Pete Crow-Armstrong, the Cubs outfielder currently having an MVP caliber season, is the source of a conspiracy theory you kind of have to hear to believe. And a new study found that the reason you lose hours online isn't stress or mood. It's the felt urge to go online itself. While everyone was busy arguing about politics, a bunch of other things happened out there, and I went looking for them. I'm Keith Conrad, and this is News Side Quest. Researchers at the University of Edinburgh have published a year-long study in the journal Scientific Reports last week that's worthy of a couple minutes of your time. Nearly 70% of a small group of people ages 50 to 66 experienced persistent sleep problems, even though they had no history of sleep disorders. Even more concerning, more than 9 out of 10, 92%, met the clinical threshold for a sleep disorder at least once during the year-long study. But here's the twist. Participants often blame their poor sleep on simply not getting enough rest, but data collected from wrist-worn devices told a completely different story. Frequent nighttime disturbances and awakenings, not insufficient total sleep time, were more often the actual culprit. In fact, 90% of participants experienced sleep disturbances throughout the study, despite most of them averaging between 6.5 and 8 hours of sleep a night, a range generally considered perfectly adequate. The people in this study thought they were getting enough sleep. Their phones and computers said they were getting enough sleep, but they weren't waking up rested because something was disturbing the quality of the sleep they were technically getting. Workplace experiences consistently emerged as one of the most important factors, suggesting that work-related stress may be a key pathway through which work affects both sleep and overall well-being. The lead researcher said, quote, "I was genuinely surprised by the sheer scale of the sleep problems we uncovered in this otherwise undiagnosed group." Now, this is a simple 45-person study, a small sample, meaning the findings should be treated as significant rather than definitive. Wearable sensor data also has known limitations in measuring sleep stages accurately. What this study is best used for is not establishing a population-wide prevalence, but identifying the mechanism for it all. Work stress is getting into sleep quality in ways that sleep duration data alone doesn't capture. And most people experiencing it have absolutely no idea that's what's actually happening to them. This is probably true for adults of all ages. Dr. Belinda Stephan of the University of Edinburgh Business School said, quote, "Our study highlights that sleep is a workplace health and well-being issue. Organizations and employers must consider the impact of their work-related sleep problems on their workforce, focusing on workers over 50 in the context of our study, but relevant among all age groups," unquote. So now that we know that, what's keeping you up at night?
Oh, wow. I just had the weirdest dream. You know you're driving, right?
Pete Crow-Armstrong is 24 years old, plays center field for my Chicago Cubs, and is having one of the best seasons in the Cubs' 150-year history. He's the reigning NL Player of the Month and a legitimate MVP candidate this year. Recently, Pete appeared on Kristen Cavallari's Let's Be Honest podcast and was asked to share an unpopular opinion. He delivered one of the more remarkable answers in recent sports media history.
It's an unpopular opinion, but don't get me going because we'll be here all night.
This is going to be crazy.
I love it.
Babe Ruth never existed is one that I like.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Really? He never existed.
I heard some pitcher with the Mariners, what's his name? Salcedo? You remember him?
Salcedo, yeah, lefty.
I think he did some podcast on Zoom when he was like going down the rabbit hole with somebody about how Babe Ruth never existed. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like,
Wow. So you're going to double down right now?
well, it's like we always talk about how like the game's evolving and like people might as well have been like underhanding the ball to that guy, and he's regarded still as one of the best players ever, and you might as well dive further into it and be like, well, maybe he just never existed.
I love it. I love it.
Look, there's actual film footage of Babe Ruth playing baseball, and plenty of people still alive who watched him play, although that group of people is probably getting fairly small at this point, since he retired in 1935. There are also detailed contemporary newspaper accounts, statistical records, photographs, and physical artifacts. The evidential bar for it never existed is just not being met, Pete. Your theory is wrong. It is also clearly at least partly a joke. The deadpan delivery, the self-awareness, the context of being asked for a craziest unpopular opinion all suggest PCA was having fun rather than sincerely disputing Babe Ruth's existence. The irony of a man having an MVP caliber season entertaining the possibility that Babe Ruth wasn't real is almost too perfect to have been accidental. But this brings up a good question. What's the most off-the-wall conspiracy theory that you hope is true even though you know it isn't?
We're through the looking glass here, people.
Researchers in Germany published a 2-week study this week that overturns what most people and most researchers assumed about what drives problematic internet use. They found that daily temptation, not stress or mood, was the strongest predictor of whether someone logged on to gaming, social media, porn, or online shopping. Temptation roughly doubled the odds of use on a given day, and its link to neglecting other responsibilities was strongest among people with the most severe habits, which makes sense. The common assumption has been that stress drives people to the internet. A bad day at work sends you to Instagram, a difficult conversation sends you down a Reddit rabbit hole, maybe about Babe Ruth not existing. Stress in a negative mood leads to a higher temptation to use the internet. But it's the temptation itself that's the actual action trigger, not the stress directly. Stress is upstream of the urge. The urge is what actually moves the cursor to the internet. Stress only had a small effect on use time overall, but for people with severe habits, stressful days still brought more temptation and more neglect. Researchers suggest that treatment should focus on managing the urge to go online itself rather than targeting stress or mood. Basically, if you're trying to use the internet less, addressing the stress that precedes it is useful but not actually sufficient. The more direct target is the felt urge in the moment, the pull you feel towards the phone when you're waiting or toward the browser when a task gets hard. You recognize it as the mechanism rather than the cause becomes something you can develop a different relationship with. My approach is to do specific tasks and otherwise put it down, whether it's a phone or a computer. And the research actually describes that as an effective strategy. Purposeful, goal-directed internet use tends to stay bounded because the specific task provides its own termination condition. The open-ended browsing session, the just a few minutes that becomes an hour, is temptation without an exit structure. So what's your secret for not falling down the rabbit hole?
Rest assured that I was on the internet within minutes, registering my disgust throughout the world.
A JetBlue flight experienced what passengers described as a sudden and terrifying free fall, with the plane dropping sharply before stabilizing. Passengers and crew were shaken, as you might imagine. I feel like JetBlue should probably cover the cost of a change of clothing for everyone on board. The investigation into what caused the incident is still ongoing.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
An Idaho family, reportedly the David Rush family of world record fame, broke the Guinness World Records for Hungry Hungry Hippos. Shame on anyone who says you can't dream big anymore.
I don't know whether to congratulate you or not. I wouldn't.
A South Florida steakhouse has launched nude dining, offering a legal clothing optional experience for guests. This may be the worst idea in the long, sad history of bad ideas. The specific food safety considerations involved in nude dining at a steakhouse are, to my knowledge, unaddressed by current FDA guidance.
The thing you don't realize is that there's good naked and bad naked. Naked hair brushing, good. Naked crouching, bad.
A bison chased a child at Yellowstone National Park in footage that circulated widely on the internet. No one was injured, thankfully. The Yellowstone's visitor guidelines on bison proximity exist for exactly this reason and are not suggestions. Bison have basically had enough of our nonsense and are letting us know about it.
Now that's a bit of a problem.
That's it for New Side Quest. 3 questions out there for your consideration. What's actually keeping you up at night right now? The conspiracy theory you hope is true even though you know it isn't. And your actual exit strategy for not losing hours online. Email me at newsidequest@gmail.com or pop into the Substack comments. See you tomorrow.